Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode here on TNF. This week it's the first standalone of the bracket. We took it out of the podcast that we run last week because we're just going to talk about these things, so we're making it a standalone video. Going to hand it over to you, Saunders, because I'm really intrigued to see your thoughts on game one. Because matchup one is two American sports, which is why I'm starting with you. We have the Madden franchise versus the NHL franchise. Now, before you give me your answer, just to explain to the people at home listening, wherever you may be, last week we did specific game titles within FPS and there will be multiple FPS rounds. This round, because they're all franchises, I believe there's like 40 Madden franchise games across all different things. We just don't have enough prelims. I know it's the biggest bracket on the internet. I don't want to be the biggest bracket in the history of the galaxy. So yeah, we're going to pigeonhole these into franchises. There are some interesting ones that are standalone games versus standalone games. So yeah, Saunders, NHL versus Madden. Let's kick it off.
I'm extremely excited about this week, and I mentioned it in the main pod. Or part of the main pod, how the blind mate segment was leading into this, and the reason is that I played sports games growing up. This is what I did, and like last week, COD 4 was what turned me on FPS. Up until that point, 5 sports games a year. That's what I played. So for anybody at home, Madden is the NFL American Football League, and it is I think it's the biggest sporting game franchise on the planet. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it must be. By numbers, it must be.
Numbers in America must be huge.
Yeah.
NHL is obviously the ice hockey games. Now, this might be controversial. The NHL games are far and away superior to Madden.
Ooh.
My game growing up, believe it or not, it's the most nostalgic game to me was NHL 94 on the Sega Mega Drive, because I got a hand-me-down Mega Drive from Uncle. You jump in and it was like quick, you know, with any sports games back in the day, you used to get like especially when in games, it was like the last season's finalists was your standard teams when you just hit quick play. Yep. And that's how I became a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, because it was the Penguins versus the Blackhawks, and I just picked the Penguins because Penguins are awesome, and you're like 5 years
Penguins
old.
Are cool.
Why would you not pick Penguins when you're 5 years old?
Shout out McGinn.
What the fuck is that?
Our very own Penguin.
Yeah. So I picked them. And then over my years, every so often you just pick up a hockey game and they were just fun. The franchise modes were so in-depth. I think they've suffered in the last few years from trying to be too realistic. And there's a reason why I'm picking Madden.
Whoa, where'd that come from?
In the mid-2000s, there was 2 competing franchises. You had the NHL 2K games and you had the EA Sports NHL games. So I want to just confirm, Daz, you don't have the NHL 2K games on here. It's the EA Sports franchise you're talking about.
It's all. So it's NHL. That's why it's pigeonholed into. It's not like EA Madden or 2K NHL. So it's pigeonholed into them all to make it harder.
I always love nostalgia, right? And I think the Madden games are great. I do think the Madden games are really good. And because you've confirmed that, I am flipping my pick back to NHL. In the mid-2000s, there was 2 competing games. You had NHL 2K and you had the EA Sports NHL franchise, right? And the EA Sports NHL franchise games were phenomenal. But the 2K games had mini games. And it was like, just you. It was like, I remember when I was walking away from home with no internet or chat internet, there was 4 of us huddled on a 19-inch telly in my room, 4 Xbox controllers, and it was like, it was just like fighting each other. It was like speed skating games, and not just total. You remember the Pokemon Stadium mini game? Mm-hmm. It was like that, but on ice, right? That's when it was nice. just fun. And the reason I'm picking it over Madden is Madden Ultimate Team is mental. We've just talked about that offline, and now we understand it a bit better that we're into sort of sports trading cards, but it's a bit mental. But in NHL, I always like franchise modes and career modes, but the Madden franchise modes has one major issue. Daz, you'll be aware of this because certainly when you're Saints jersey, what happens every year in the off-season, teams restructure player contracts because they can't afford them. You can't do that in the games, therefore you can't stay under the salary cap. And that was the case with the last Madden game I played, which had been 2 years ago. So until they figure that out, I can't pick it, because you cannot have a proper, in-depth 20-year franchise mode, because you cannot keep your players. You have to basically turn the salary cap off and give people massive signing bonuses because you can't stay under it. Whereas the NHL games, I just think are fun. Plus, it's always great when you be a pro and then just get chucked out for fighting every 2 minutes. So I'm giving it to NHL. I think the Madden games are better games, but that one issue Madden bugs me, and NHL games are so nostalgic for me. It's hockey.
Nice.
I really want to hear it. Craig's thoughts though as well. So hope he is listening.
Yeah, he is a huge hockey fan. Last week he was screaming and shouting in the comment section that CS was pipped by COD 4. So yeah, I'm interested to hear his thoughts, because that's 2 of the 3 of his American sports going head to head. His other one is in here somewhere, I believe, in some capacity. Yeah, it is. So I'll go next, right? And Ross, you can perhaps have a decide and say. So I didn't play a lot of NHL. I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge American sports fan until maybe 3 or 4 years ago in general. I have no love for baseball, purely because I don't know anything about it other than how to play it. But there's a guy that goes to the Thistle games, right? He's a dear family friend, old Joe. And he used to tell us stories about, of course it's old Joe, do you know what I mean? He used to tell us stories. He used to go to New York every year to watch the baseball. He would always go to Fenway Park when he was away. And he used to tell us, I don't know if he used to add this for dramatic effect, but I have confirmed with Edward Craig that this is in fact the case. He used to say that he used to spend like up to 13 hours at a baseball game, because that's how long they can last. And I just thought, there's only so many beers and cheap hot dogs a man can eat and drink before it's time to leave the stadium. So yeah, I don't know an awful lot about baseball. So these are the 2 games that I've played the most when it comes to American sports. Madden more than NHL, obviously, being a Saints fan. I have no affiliation with NHL. I don't have a team. If I was to pick one, it may very well be the Penguins, because we have our own penguin that we adopted in Frankfurt Zoo when we went over for the Euros. Shout out to you, McGinn, wherever you may be. It's a tricky one, because I do agree with you. What I have played of NHL was extremely fun, but again, I don't really think I understand what I was doing. I was just trying to pick fights on the ice rink, so I was just trying to get involved. I'm going to give it to Madden, right? And I do agree with you on the franchise mode that the salary cap thing is an issue. Maybe we just don't know how to work it. But I've always found the same issue.
It's a known issue.
Yeah, I've found the same issue myself. The Ultimate Team does make a little bit more sense since I started looking at sports trading cards and stuff. The different variations of cards make more sense to me. But if I'm putting the 2 of them head to head against, if I was bored and wanted to sit down and just have a quick play match, the edge goes to Madden anyway, because I have a vested interest being a Saints fan. But I feel like I could enjoy playing the NFL experience more than I would the NFL experience on console, because you get the in-depth playbook now in the NFL games is really, really good for your blitz and your defense. You can choose your attacking plays, run, pass. It's more in-depth now than ever, and it's kind of more akin to how the teams set up in real life, which is really, really cool.
Games are very much more simulation. NHL's
they are
arcadey still, even though there is a simulated version.
Yeah. So I'm going to let the man who has probably played very little of both make the decision on this one, because I'm not sure how much of these games he would actually have played. But don't fret, Ross, because there's a big one coming up for you. Don't worry.
So, great setup, because that is exactly what's going to happen here. I have played none. I have played not a single hockey game, not a single American football game. Now, that makes this hard, but I have an idea how I'm going to approach it. It's going to be, what games do I think I would have the most fun with?
NHL 2K7 to play it.
When you guys were setting them up and you'd said one's more arcadey, one's more simulation, as someone who, below a novice on both sports, I actually kind of enjoy watching ice hockey whenever I see it. I would have to go NHL, purely and simply for that. I think, because I think I would have so much more fun playing those games.
I think it's a hell of a matchup, and I genuinely mean what I said. That if Daz had been, if you'd said, Apparently, you can buy NHL 2K7 for 50p and CEX. That's the one. That's the one with the arcade mode. I'm going to go and buy that.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be class. But
That sounds fantastic.
had we been really strict and said no, it's the EA one, I might have lent Madden. But that particular issue in the franchise mode still grinds my fucking gears.
Yeah, I wouldn't exclude either franchise that creates the games from the matchup.
That's been 10 minutes on the first match.
Yeah, don't worry. Some of the matchups are a lot quicker than that. So we'll now head over to matchup 2, and it's, in my opinion, probably the biggest matchup in terms of size and stature. Right. So it will face NHL in the next round. Whoever wins this. We have the PGA Tour games, including Rory McIlroy franchise, versus FIFA and EAFC. Two big franchises. I'll start this time, right? I'll start and then you two can shoot some shit. So, I don't really know how to explain how massive of a football fan I actually am. It's my first and probably only true love. And having owned every FIFA since like FIFA 95, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious which way I would lean based on the longevity that I've played. However, FIFA peaked probably 2006 through till about 2012. That was probably a 6-year peak where everything about the games were incredible. Like, they then lined into Ultimate Team, and they brought probably the biggest problem with sports games right now into the market. It's kind of similar to last week when we spoke about Fortnite and what it did to the market. But the original years, the first couple of years of Ultimate Team were incredibly good. It was incredibly balanced. It was much harder to build that god team so early. There was far less variety of packs available to buy. You were talking gold packs and premium gold packs until like after Christmas they started to throw out like the jumbos and the ultimate packs and stuff. So PGA Tour, man, I don't know what it is. There's just something to love about it. Like, I love watching golf. I am a terrible golfer. I do not play golf. I have saying that I'm not a great footballer anymore, but I'm a terrible golfer. And I have no real love for playing golf. But there's something about these games, man, that just hook me in every time I put one on. I always want to take my horrifically created little character and take him all the way to the tippy top. But the one thing that really sticks for me in this is the nights and nostalgia we have as a group playing things like Rory Mac in the dark days of COVID and stuff like that, where we would just spend hours fucking smashing golf balls about these courses. And it's kind of similar to PUBG, and the makeup of Rory Mac was that you could end up like inside the rocks and stuff like that, and it was impossible to get out of, which added a little bit to the charm, and obviously that it was a great laugh. But I can't see past FIFA or EAFC. The decline makes it harder because FIFA and EAFC has fallen off a cliff, and that's a topic we will very much touch on in next week's TN of Talks pod. But the quality, it's just so, it's become so money orientated that it's lost all quality. Saunders mentioned it himself, the chemistry system is just not the same as the old-fashioned green lines. So I am going to give it to FIFA based on my longevity with the franchise, but PGA, man, I'm just kind of sad it's in this matchup because I would have liked to have voted for it elsewhere. We'll go you, Ross.
Yeah, I've got some experience of playing some golf games, to be fair. I quite like the one that came out last, which was that one that was like Road to the Masters or the Masters.
Road to the Masters was really good.
That's probably the first game in years where I actually got all the achievements on it.
Nice.
Because I think I found that there was like a way of like, if you turned down the assists, it just became stupidly funny. Like turning up with like a guy who was an overall 73 and winning the Masters by like 14 strokes was just downright hilarious. But But playing that online was also quite good fun, to be fair. There's a couple that played that. But for me, FIFA EAFC, whatever you want to call it these days, wins purely because I still have a copy of 2002 back there. And yeah, last couple, I haven't bought this year's, I haven't bought last year's, and I don't think I bought the year before. I think it was Sophie bought them when we did a game share type thing. The Be a Pro nights are probably what sort of separate it from me when like we've had nights
Pro clubs,
playing that.
yeah,
There was like
yeah.
5, 6, 7 of us on the one pitch.
Yeah.
And it
It was
was
fucking chaos.
downright hilarious, man, because we were all varying levels of terrible. So no, for me, that gets it. The social elements of that are fantastic. And obviously the old days, like 2002, I think I had that for 3 years. So when could you ever do that?
I mean,
now?
you really are talking about the likes of Kisimba, Ben Ajayi, Steve Weiser, Rizla Paper, and what did Kubert call his guy? He went with one of the generic names. It was one of the generic. You let the game pick the name for you. But yeah, I totally agree. Day nights on pro clubs are just so nostalgic. So yeah, I think we know the outcome. But Saunders, are you going to veer away from FIFA, or is PGA getting flattened?
I will do everything in my power to make sure that EAFC/FIFA gets dumped the fuck out of this bracket as early as possible. I despise what it's become. I think my first FIFA game was FIFA 96 on the Mega Drive, and then Road to World Cup 98, which had a 5-a-side mode, which was fun. That was good. I think after that was 99, 2000, 2001. But I pivoted to PES. PES 3, 4, 5 and 6 were far superior than FIFA in every way in terms of gameplay. And then, as you say rightly, PES 2008 went off a cliff. It just did not work online. So with the rubber band and the lagging was ridiculous. In fact, it was shockingly bad. And then everybody moved back to FIFA at the time. And I played it, and I played Ultimate Team, but it just get worse and worse and worse. And there was not. I just putting time into it. I've always talked about nostalgia and these things. Tiger Woods 2003, 2004, 2005. And I remember literally going to the golf course, playing golf, coming home, 4 days again in my room, one controller, taking turns, playing 18 holes. And the way the games were back then were brilliant. I did play the last one. It was good. And part of me is a little bit picking this because I'm like, it's fell off a cliff. And I'm like, the decline has been so bad that I want that one recognised in this bracket to say, like, I vote this because but it is a little, I'm admittedly ignoring the peak a little bit, but I also think the PES peaked higher. So I'm taking PGA, but obviously it's a 2-1-1.
Yeah. I would just like to point out that for those who aren't from the west of Scotland, he said one controller. There was not 4 people wanking controller. Okay, it was not one controller. It was one controller. Okay, I'll clarify that before we get out of hand here. You mentioned that you felt that PES peaked and was better than FIFA in terms of gameplay. So PES is up against, and this, I'm so happy this exists in the bracket, and it's up against International Superstar Soccer Pro. Ross, you haven't started one yet, so you can kick us off.
International Soccer. That name is not familiar to me.
I do not like where this is headed.
So,
okay.
I know you might have been wanting some pros and cons back and forth. I'm afraid it loses because I've never even heard of that.
Okay, this one's going to be short and sweet. Saunders, we know the outcome because you've just spoken about how much you love PES. Right?
To be fair, ISS Pro was the precursor to PES anyway. So
yeah, it was, and that's why they're pinned together, and I'm glad that you've got some recollection of it. So, Russ, International Superstar Soccer Pro was PES, but made in the early to mid 90s, and was all international teams. So it was fucking incredible, is the only way I could explain it. Honestly, see if you can even just look up some gameplay on YouTube and stuff like that. Just go and watch it. The commentary, the way the game was played for when it was released was just awesome. So I'm giving it to ISSP. It deserves it. I actually agree with Saunders. I think it's the precursor for what football games became, which is why I'm giving it to ISSP. It was just unfortunate that it was up against the behemoth that was FIFA and quickly became PES, because without just totally dismissing PES 6 is a masterpiece in its own right. It just is. You could take the ball away at Adriano and shoot from anywhere in his own half, and you had an 80% chance of a goal. But the game was the game was excellent, and yeah, it just deserves so much more love. I had two options for this. It was either going to be ISSP or it was going to be LMA Manager. And I've purposely left things like FM off this section of the bracket, right? And more to come on that, right? But yeah, things like that and Champman, etc., have been left off the bracket. So I left LMA off the bracket and put in ISSP because I feel it's the precursor to what all football games became in the early 2000s. So I'll pass it to you, Saunders, but I think I know where this is headed.
That's PES.
Yeah, I thought as much.
As you say, I'll give ISS, but for all intents and purposes, I think I'd argue that if we're claiming EAFC and FIFA is the same franchise, you could argue that ISSP and PES is the same franchise because it was Konami's football game before PES was. So, it's PES, but and it is because of particularly PES 4 and PES 6. The ones that stick in my head, but I just think they were fucking masterpieces.
Fair enough. So currently we have NHL, FIFA, and PES progressing, which probably doesn't sound like a huge surprise. But I'll save the knife twisting for later, because there is a gut wrencher in here for one of you. Trust me. We'll move on to a slightly different sport. We'll move on to the world of boxing. Right?
Yes, I'm fucking so happy to put this in here.
So, this is interesting because we had this kind of thing in NHL versus Madden. Right, so Saunders, I'll let you kick off with this one. But we have Fight Night. We have Fight Night, just as a generalisation, Fight Night versus Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
I'm taking Fight Night just purely because of Fight Night Round 3. It was near perfect. It was, if I was to describe it to somebody who's not played it, it's like the career mode setup is very much like Need for Speed Most Wanted, but in boxing, like you have to fight your way up from nothing. And I don't think I'll go on a limb and say that I don't think a fighting type game has reached that peak of height again since then. And this was 2005, I want to say.
That kind of region.
So
maybe slightly later, but not much.
I'm taking Fight Night because of Fight Night Round 3. I think it's a near perfect game.
I think this one's probably got the most likelihood to become a clean sweep. Mike Tyson's Punch Out is a great game, right, for when it was released. It was a bit of a... Do you know what always reminds me of? Like, see the old Simpsons episodes where Homer and Bart go head to head and it's Frederick Tatum and just did like base white guy where they fight with the joysticks and the controllers. It just reminds me so much of that kind of thing. It was one of those arcade games that was just ahead of its time in terms of console gaming and stuff. I personally don't think that Fight Night 3 is the best. I think Fight Night Champion is the best of the releases, and Fight Night Champion is the one I spent the most time playing. So I'm going to give it to Fight Night for Fight Night Champion. I think the franchise itself is great, and you're limited, extremely limited when it comes to boxing games. It's one of the few things EA have got right across the franchise, and it didn't like massively tailor off and dip. So I'll give it to Fight Night. Russ?
Yeah, I think Fight Night Round 3, I don't own it anymore, but it was actually one of the early games I had for the Xbox 360, I think. I feel like I had Gears of War, Crackdown 1, and that were the first three games that
that
I had. I think I've got all the gamer score on it as well. I think because, to cast our minds back, you could still get the achievements if you turned off DQs for low blows. So you could just low blow your way right to the very top, which was...
You didn't need to turn it off. You could get away with like a couple of headbutts and a couple of elbows if you were smart. You just couldn't do too many too quickly. It was...
The game franchise was great. Nice. So Fight Night makes it safely into the next round. One for the old nostalgia heads there. We'll move to another niche sport, which probably has only 2 game franchises. This one's probably the one I'm most intrigued in across the group. But there's one that's going to be gut-wrenching for one of you to try and decide between. We're going to go with Skate versus Tony Hawk. Because those 2 games are incredible. The 2 franchises. You can go first.
Ralph Ross makes his mind up. I'm taking Tony Hawk because I did play a bit of Skate, but in terms of time into it, it wasn't the same. And I really think that Tony Hawk's Underground was... I just remember feeling like it was one of those really early games that gave you free roam. And opened up free roam and a world of sports games that didn't really exist until that point. So I think that should be considered, because like I know that 2K added that with like the neighbourhood and things like that, and Tony Hawk did it first. And again, it's a nostalgia pick for me, so I'm just purely nostalgia is Tony Hawk.
I can see Ross is writhing in pain over there trying to make a decision, so I'm gonna talk for a little bit.
Just pick Skate and make his life miserable.
And see if he second guesses. So I'm going to be honest, right? I played a bit of Tony Hawk. Mostly Pro Skater 2 was the game I played most of for Tony Hawk.
Interesting.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. But do you know something though, right? I'm going to try and take... Because I did play a lot of Skate 3. I did play a lot of Skate 3 and I loved the Skate franchise.
Are you as excited as I am for the new one that's currently in open beta for PC?
That is a perfect segue, Ross, because I don't believe there is the same clamour for another Tony Hawk game in the same way there is for another Skate game. Mm-hmm. I would probably argue that Tony Hawk is preferred for pure nostalgia. I actually think the Skate games are better games. I think the actual games themselves are better. But I also think like Tony Hawk's a bit more fun in the sense of, like you say, it's open world and you can just fuck about and do whatever you like, and it brought that to the forefront. I'm going to give it to Skate, not just to make Ross's life more difficult, purely on the basis that I think that the people want Skate 4 instead of another Tony Hawk game.
Can I just say one thing to see if I can sway? Just out of curiosity. During the closed alpha play test, so Skate 4 will be free to play. During the closed alpha play test, and microtransactions have been added into Skate in the form of digital currency called Sandvan Bucks that is used to buy in-game items.
I'm not going to hold that against Skate because
I'm wondering he's EA in every fucking round that EA is mentioned.
Yeah, but there's a difference. EA charge you £100 for the game title and then add microtransactions in on top of it, which is why I wasn't too harsh on Fortnite, although they kind of created the beast that is microtransactions. That they are free to play and they give you the tools. It's all cosmetic. There's no advantage, whereas FIFA and EA there is. Right. You get better cards and more money you spend. So I can't envision what advantage they're going to give you in Skate by letting you buy. It'll be purely cosmetic. It's not going to be pay. Aye, I did think it would be purely cosmetic. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Skate. And the answer to your question, Ross, is yes, I'm extremely excited about the game that's in open beta.
I'm very intrigued to see how it goes. This is a tough one for me because I think I've played a fair bit. I didn't really... This is weird. Like, I own Skate 3, which then Saunders was very gracious in one of our early videos, actually, on the channel to buy me it when he was in Birmingham, which was really cool.
With your own money.
I didn't really know. Yeah, with my money. But still, he got me it. I only own American Wasteland. I own American Wasteland for PS2 and 360 because that came out at that time that the PS3 hadn't came out yet. So you got that weird kind of crossover. But I've played Pro Skater 2, Pro Skater 3, Thug 1 and Thug 2 pretty extensively, but just at other people's houses and just turning up, sitting down and just getting stuck in. It is a really tough one because for me, Tony Hawk's probably the more influential franchise
I think that's fair.
Skate's what I'm going to go for.
Oh.
I think because there was something
I like
about
it.
Skate 3. I've never ever been able to skateboard. I cannot do an ollie, right? That's just a fact. But it let me. Both games let me go and pretend I could, but there was something about Skate that just kind of really had you playing for more than 10 minutes at a time. If that made sense, there was, I don't know, the ways that they had it working, it just hit the spot. So yeah, hopefully the new one obviously hits the heights. I would like to hope that we play it for the channel in some capacity, but yeah.
Online multiplayer is going to be fucking hilarious.
I do think that's probably a bit of a shock in the sense that Tony Hawk is the franchise when it comes to skateboarding. And as I said, we are pigeonholed into only having two, but Tony Hawk is by far the bigger name. So I'm happy to see Skate go through, but it is a tough matchup, and it is the one I was most interested in because it's probably the one that's hardest to decipher. Right, I told you there was an absolute hood classic in here, right? And this may just be a West of Scotland thing, so maybe nobody here knows it. Saunders, you may have been too old, and I don't mean that as a slander. I just mean one of these games really came to the forefront in secondary school for us, and it was we'll get to it. So this matchup is SSX versus, let me take you to, you're in computing or you're in the library of some such, Ross. Saunders, you might remember this. And you sit down and you go, do you know what, I'm going on to Friv, I'm going to go and play a game. It's SSX versus Jumpers for Goalposts.
Okay. That's
A hood classic. Only because I don't have another skateboarding game really to put it up against. I just thought I'd pick a random classic from the internet.
I like that. That's a cool little one to pitch it up against, to be fair. I like that.
I feel bad for SSX Tricky.
Nice.
I mean, I can go in here and go nice and easy. I am a massive stan for SSX Tricky. SSX Tricky is my childhood. SSX Tricky is actually the game that burnt out the laser on my chunky PS2 because I played it so much. I do still have that copy of it. The state of that disc is ridiculous because of how much it was played. I can't not pick it. I just can't.
Fair enough.
It's one of the goats.
Saunders?
I'll take SSX. It's close because Jumpers for Goalpost. I mean, I remember S1 or S2. We'd PE at fifth period, and then with business management in sixth period. And I'm telling you, there was no business. There's no business being managed. It's fucking sixth period on a Friday afternoon, is there? So
yeah,
the Jumpers for Goalpost got me through school. So it's close, but I'm way Ross. SSX is one of the games that we've said in every other video that just find a way to put a modern version on Game Pass for us.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to disagree, right? Like, I'm the same. Jumpers for Goalpost got me through many a drudging period with Miss Barrington or whatever her name was, and just trips to the library where, before I knew the joy that books could bring. Yeah, I love Jumpers for Goalpost. It's just a bit of nostalgia from our childhoods, but SSX was a classic, man. It was a classic. So that's a clean sweep for SSX. However, it will struggle because we have two left to get through before we get into the nitty gritty. So, Saunders, in the pod earlier, you showed us your new pickups, and this isn't the one that's going to hurt the most.
Okay.
We have Raw and Raw 2, and I'm including Attitude and Raw because it's red, basically, versus the SmackDown game. So here comes the pain, etc. And I'm going to start this one, right? And I'm very torn because, similarly, like you said in the pod, I won't give too much away because you'll have to go and listen to the podcast for Saunders. But he might give it away when he speaks anyway. I owned the SmackDown games, but I had the most fun on Raw 2. So it's a really tricky one because I played more of Here Comes the Pain than any other. But the amount of time Sean and I would spend in his house either playing Raw 2 or Champman 0203 back in the day was insane. His totally not chipped original Xbox. Totally not chipped for anyone who's listening. Yeah, it's a really, really tricky one for me. This one's harder for me than the one that I think will turn the screw the most, but I'm going to give it to Raw purely on the base. And that's strange because I'm the SmackDown guy on the Golden Shovel. But Raw 2, I think, was just the most fun of them all. And I don't know if that's because I spent the most time playing it with someone else, but I'm going Raw 2. We'll go with Ross, and we'll let you have your say at the end, Saunders.
This one's kind of easy for me because I think I've not played any of the Raw ones.
Well, that answers that question.
None of my mates had it. I think I've played one of the SmackDown games on PS1. I just don't remember which one. I do remember it being quite fun though. So I kind of have to give it to that. But I don't like it when I'm not able to be fully informed. But I think you know
what you have to do?
It's kind of intriguing because it sets it up for a tiebreak. But
if only you knew someone who's just bought the discs and could play them.
And it makes me want to buy them too.
Saunders, make the decision, Raw or SmackDown. As the Raw guy.
SmackDown.
On the
SmackDown.
We've flipped. We've totally flipped.
Here comes the pain as my favourite of the ones that predate SVR. So storyline was good. I also think it was the first one with Brock Lesnar. And
yeah, well, he was the cover boy for Here Comes the Pain. So
and it was just
big.
But that it also tells the story that we've been talking about in the pod at TGS, Golden Shovel Wrestling Podcast, drops every Wednesday and Saturday. We've talked a lot in the last weeks about the generations of wrestling, and like SmackDown, the name of the show and the games came from a catchphrase from The Rock, who was the most popular wrestler in the late 90s, early 2000s. And obviously he had Know Your Role, just bring it. And then it was like, oh shit, The Rock's went to Hollywood, what do we do? And suddenly the next guy's there. And this is so I think for that point of view, it tells a story that we've told about, like, even though people say like wrestler would be what it is with Hogan, Taker, but there's always the next guy. So I love that game. I don't know if you're including SVR in that or if that's with the gut wrench that's coming, but I'm taking the SmackDown games.
Stay tuned. Okay, so SmackDown pipped Raw by 2-1. And this is where I feel SSX will struggle. Maybe not though, because Ross is a big stand. So we have one prelim left, and this is the one that will turn the screw.
Who's it for?
I'm going to come to you last on this, Saunders, because I feel like you'll suffer the most from it.
I think this could be easy.
We have the SmackDown versus Raw games as a whole against the NBA franchise. As a man who coached basketball for a number of years, etc. I do think I know which way I'll lean. But
I cannot stress enough how easy this decision is.
Wow, that's impressive. I think this one could be a clean sweep then, to be honest. Ross, you can kick us off.
So, if I look behind me, I don't have as many SmackDown versus Raw games as I remember.
That's a problem.
I can see 2007. I could see that. PS.
That's why it's the goal.
I've got 2010 and 2011 for some reason on 360. I don't really remember buying them.
ECW, etc. Yeah, nice.
Like, 14, 15, 16 and 20. I quite enjoy both of them, but I mean, I'm a big kid at heart, and I fucking love just sitting there, just playing through wrestling games. So I think it kind of has to be SmackDown versus Raw. I would love to get something. We've actually kind of spoke about it in some way about doing like a sort of GM mode across the three of us. I actually don't know how we'd do that logistically, where it lives, etc. I would love to do it because I think it'd be class.
Let's do it.
Whereas NBA just doesn't. I remember actually playing it once with Saunders online. It was a fucking mess online wise, and it just soured the experience forever for me. So no, SVR.
Fair enough. You know, Saunders, I was going to be really, really, really hard on you and pit SmackDown versus Raw versus the Raw and SmackDown games. I was going to put them collectively together in a matchup. But then I realised I don't know what I would pick either. So I didn't do that. I'll go next, and then I'll let you have your say at the end, because I know that these are probably two of your favourite franchises as a person rather than just games. So I'm also going to go for SmackDown versus Raw. I'm not a huge basketball fan. I can watch it, I can play the games, but I can't play them extensively. I won't say too much on SmackDown versus Raw because Saunders is about to go on a 10-minute tirade about why it's the greatest game franchise of all time. Yeah, there's just, like you say, Ross, there's just something about wrestling games, but SmackDown versus Raw in particular at its peak. Everything about it just brought everything from GM mode to, similar to what I said about Madden at the beginning in matchup 1, I could just sit down, play a match, pick a steel cage, and throw two guys in that I loved in the wrestling and just wrestle for 90 minutes and just like beat this guy within an inch's life, but never escape the cage. You just pick him up and hit him another 3 finishers, etc. So, yeah, it has to be SmackDown versus Raw for me, Saunders.
I love NBA 2K games. I grew up on NBA Live and then switched to 2K, and then I actually switched to 2K the year I got my 360, because it would have been 2005 it came out, so I got it in 2006, and my parents bought me 2K7, and I remember looking at it going, oh no, they bought 2K rather than Live. And I played it and I was like, this is so much fun. It was like half the price for some reason, and it was so much fun. And see, from then to like 2013, 2014, the 2K games were brilliant. But I do have an issue with microtransactions, and 2K takes the biscuit more than anything else. And I'm talking like, you put the game in for the first time, somebody's already spent 200 quid on VC so they can make their guy perfect for the neighbourhood. And I know they've tried to fix it, but they also don't want to fix it because of the money you're spending. I loved franchise modes. I loved my league and my GM modes, and I loved the idea of like taking like the worst team in the league and rebuilding them and turning them into something amazing. That's what I love doing in these games. And I talked in the last pod about what things I regret or wish I'd done differently. Like, that's a whole community online, like rebuilders. That's what they do. And I was like, fucking did this when these kids were still in fucking nappies. But I talked about the fall off FIFA and EA, and I've got to say the same for 2K. Like, they sort of be a pro type mode, whatever they call it, my player mode, and because they're not revenue generating, got ignored for years. And I fell in love with them, and I haven't played them. I will only play them because eventually they end up on Game Pass for free. But SmackDown vs Raw 2007 is the greatest game I've ever played, and the more we talk about it, the more I realise that when Ross did a tier list right to the start, I didn't even have it on that tier list, and I also forgot about it, but it was just fucking perfect. GM mode.
That's the thing.
GM
they are
mode,
forgettable.
create a wrestler, I think that was the first year they create a title when you could make your own custom title belts and shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
SVR takes it, and it's not even particularly close. I hate what 2K's become.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because I agree. I think that SmackDown vs Raw 2007 is one of the greatest games I've ever played, but I also feel like it's one of the most forgettable games, and it's just because it's wrestling, and it falls out of my mind. It's an annual release for 2K and stuff like that. So
you forget,
and because it's now just WWE 2K, it's like a forgotten franchise almost. It's a bit like the Here Comes the Pain and stuff like that. They're not regarded in the same light as the 2K games, when in actual fact they're far, far superior than the bang average games we get now. So we now find ourselves with 4 matchups, and we're into the lightning rounds. So we've said our piece on all of these games. We now have 60 seconds maximum each to pick a winner of the next 4 rounds. We will kick it off with NHL versus FIFA. Russ.
I have to go FIFA. I know that I put NHL through the last thing so I'd have more fun, but FIFA I have indeed played quite extensively. So have to go there, I'm afraid.
I will kill this one dead in the water and agree that I have to go FIFA, purely based, as I said earlier, on longevity, the pro clubs, the nostalgia, the amount of time and unfortunately money I have sunk into Ultimate Team over the years with microtransactions. Yeah, I have to go FIFA. Not that it matters.
Let's do that hockey.
Okay, fair dues. Unfortunately,
I do want to point out, obviously the NHL games have microtransactions, and I get that.
Yeah.
I don't always play. I'm good at avoiding them, but Aye.
Yeah, fair enough.
I like the hockey games.
Matchup 2, Fight Night versus Skate. Ross.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Has to be Skate. Has to be Skate. As much as, again, I'd wax lyrical
Saunders?
about FNR3. Yeah.
Fight Night.
I now get to make the decision. That's a tricky one. I played a lot of Fight Night Champion, a bit of Fight Night Round 3. I'm going to give it to Skate. I think Skate is a cult classic. I think it deserves a lot more respect than it actually gets. I think it should be lauded a lot more. So I'm going to give it to Skate. In our next matchup, we have SSX versus the SmackDown games. Saunders.
Do you not put Pez through somewhere in the middle there?
Yes, we did. Don't worry.
That's not come. All right, you said that's
Yeah, don't worry.
SmackDown.
Fair enough. No explanation required. Ross.
I love wrestling. That's an explanation.
I mean, I know that I could be doing this just to put it to a tie break, but I do genuinely think I'd fucking love SSX Tricky, and I'm trying to get all of them as quickly as I can as SSX.
Okay.
100%.
This might be somewhat controversial as the SmackDown correspondent on the Golden Shovel. I'm going to give it to SSX Tricky. I think in terms of what they brought to gaming, I think SSX left a bigger footprint than the SmackDown games did, because obviously the SmackDown versus Raw games are immensely superior to those games, and I obviously picked the Raw games over the SmackDown one, so I'm going to give it to SSX Tricky. Leaving your final matchup, probably the toughest one, so I'll let you go first until speaking of Pez versus SmackDown versus Raw.
SmackDown versus Raw.
I like it. Ross?
I didn't play an awful lot of Pez. I think it was because FIFA got me at a young age, and that was kind of it. So I'm going to unfortunately have to kill it dead, and SmackDown versus Raw for me is the one that progresses from this tie.
I am not going to disagree with you. SmackDown versus Raw is going to slap Pez right out of the water. Although similar to what you said, Ross, I was hooked by FIFA at such a young age that I think that the semi-final matchup is going to be a bit of a hideous one. Taking us to our semi-finals, we'll start with semi-final 1. Skate versus SSX Tricky. Saunders?
SSX Tricky.
I'll go next. Right, in my 60 seconds, we'll start now. These are two really good semi-finals, by the way, just looking at them on paper for what they are. And I'm really, really happy that Skate and SSX have made it this far. I now find it immensely difficult to choose between the two. I was going to say I'll go with the one I had more fun playing, but now I've thought about it, I actually don't know if that's possible to differentiate. I'm going to go with Skate, not just to force Ross into a really difficult position with 60 seconds to make his mind up, but I just think Skate's just that little bit better than SSX Tricky. Ross?
This is tough because I've got a lot of fond memories of both, but I've only played one of each franchise. I just played one of each so much that they've kind of left sort of lasting memories on me. I take myself back to, oh God, when would it have been? Like 2005 or something. Me and one of my mates in my bedroom had spent all night sitting with two controllers plugged in. And it was just, we did like the career modes in the arcade races for SSX like over and over and over again. And that's like one of those like formative gaming memories. I hate that this has to go out at the semi-final stage. But I'm sorry to Skate, I think SSX does take this.
Fair enough.
Not an easy decision.
Listen, we're a democracy. This is what it's all about. Taking us to our other semi-final, and I will kick us off because I know where Saunders is going to go. So I'll come to you second, Saunders. Right.
Say what's up again?
No, I don't know, because I've actually not decided which one I'm picking yet. This is really tough for me, right, because I do not think there is a franchise I have sunk more hours into than FIFA. Probably with the exception of Call of Duty, which, spoiler alert, won one of last week's prelims. So I'm really torn because I think I have the most fun playing SmackDown versus Raw than any other game I've played. I think I just have more fun on it. I just don't know if I can vote against a franchise that I have like a almost 30-year history with. I just don't know if, for as much as I've hung my boots up now and I will not be buying any further editions of FC, I'm just, it's beyond me as a game. I'm gonna go FIFA. Yeah, I'm gonna go FIFA. We'll go to you, Saunders. I feel like I know what you're going to pick.
I've got a feeling that we're losing. I've lost 5 out of 6 since round 1, I think, yeah. I'm taking SmackDown versus Raw. And it's interesting because I probably have technically sunk more time into FIFA. But a lot of that time wasn't enjoyable, especially at the peak of Ultimate Team. Like, I feel like we've had fun sitting in folks' houses playing the Dodie Cup in the old days.
The Dodie Cup. Remember
Right,
that? The Dodie Cup.
Random teams, random everything.
That was good
Your
fun,
luck
man.
was your luck. Sitting in my old house and beating Adam with Le Havre
Admira Vaca.
6-9.
Yeah.
Le Havre versus Admira Vaca on a Saturday night, right? But too much of that time from, I would say, 2012 onwards was us sitting in our Ultimate Teams grinding. In chat, but not playing, and I can't pick it for that reason. Like, I can look past it. And I know that I'm not the only person that didn't have fun playing FIFA for 6 hours in certain nights because you're just like, I have to play, I have to play. So
Yeah.
And-
We were probably split down the middle
Aye.
as a friend group in that regard.
SVR, especially 2007 GM mode, was just chef's kiss. Loved it.
Ross, I apologise firstly before I let you pick because I feel like it's been dumped on you a couple of times to make some tough choices and you have just had to differentiate between the last semi-final. So I promise you can have your say first on the final. Okay? I won't put you in that spot.
I appreciate it because this is not easy. For me, like, yeah, I played from 02, played that for 3 years, and then I think I had 2005 for a couple of years, and it's been every FIFA since 2006 Road to the World Cup. I had that until like 3 years ago, every single one of them. But you're right, there was that sort of shift where you bought the game because you just, that's what you did. You bought the game and then you played Ultimate Team because, well, everyone else was playing Ultimate Team. Why wouldn't you? It's not a fucking easy choice, this, man.
No, it's not, mate. It really isn't.
I think I want to give it to the wrestling game, so I think I'm just gonna do it.
Oh, nice. I
Purely
like it.
because I can't, outside of, everyone picking a pro and we all played it in pro clubs, I don't think I've had a true sense of fun with FIFA since they stopped caring about career mode. So that was probably in like 2016. Other than, as you say, the random nights. So it does.
Do we have our final?
A WWE 2K game and want to make sure that I'm right in saying this, but yeah, I think I'll go wrestling. But
Nice.
it's not easy.
Nice. There we go, we have our final. And it's probably not a shock to anyone that the guys who run a wrestling podcast have wrestling in their final. That's probably not a shock. And this is maybe some people a shock contender. 2 shock contenders across all the sports franchises. But to have WWE, specifically SmackDown versus Raw, onwards to SSX in the final, It's a really interesting matchup. Ross, I'll let you kick us off as promised. I won't put you in the painful decision of eliminating one of these two.
Thank you for making me go first. Yeah, look, I think everyone kind of knows if you've got this far into this video, if you've seen any of our other videos before this, I think we kind of know. I'm going for SSX here.
How would they know?
It's just
interesting.
It's it.
Listen, I don't hate it. I do not hate it. Saunders, again, similar to last week's bracket where it just tailed into you powerhousing one through to the final. Do we have a difference of opinion?
It's not as straightforward as I think you think it is. Because you did split wrestling up a little bit, you had the SmackDown games, the Raw games, and SVR. Yep. SVR was only 2005 to 2011, and I do think there was a tail off after that. And I know, to be fair to 2K, when they picked it up, the games were broken. I don't know if it was to get fixed.
Majorly broken. Yeah.
And it did peak in 07, but it doesn't mean that 6, 8, 9 and 10 were also fucking broken games, and they were annual purchases for me. SSX was a childhood peak memory. That's fact. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But having just done a bit of Googling there, as I'm putting this out, the last SSX came out in 2012. Only made like 4 or 5 games. I think
it's kind of a match made in heaven.
I think because of that, I'm like, because we obviously when we played the GM mode at Tuna Adams a couple of years ago, when we were doing for Money in the Bank, I was like, this reminded me of 2007 and 2006, the GM mode. So I was like, okay, they've brought it back now to a game that I remember. And I have to give it to the wrestling because of that. Like, they both have such nostalgia for me from back in the day, but I could go and pick up 2K25, play a GM mode and be like, this is great. I couldn't go and pick up a recent a copy of SSX, and you keep asking for one, but
I think because the closest you're going to get is like what Riders Republic came out a few years ago. I haven't played it. There was some other game that everyone thought was quite good. It came out last year and the name escapes me. Shredders? No, I thought that was 2022. That wasn't even last year. So like, yeah, it's been a while.
It has. And I am now in the unenviable position, probably only fitting, seeing as the bracket was birthed by this stupid brain, to pick between the two. And when I put this bracket together, I wasn't so sure SSX was going to get as much love as it has, and I'm happy it has because it deserves it. I'm teetering, right, because what I'm trying to decide now is I picked Skate over SSX, and I'm trying to now decide would I have picked SmackDown vs Raw over Skate, and I don't know if I would have. So would I have picked it over SSX, Tricky? It's really similar to what you said, Saunders. SSX is just like a core childhood memory. The first time you pick one of those games up and play it, you're just in awe of how fucking cool the game is. But it's my only attachment to like snowboarding. Like, I have no emotional attachment to it other than SSX. I was emotionally invested in wrestling when I was younger. I then had a huge gap. We are now emotionally invested again in wrestling, probably more so now than I ever was before, which is interesting at the ripe old age of 30. It's a really, really tough one.
It shows you the importance of the matchups though, because there has been franchises mentioned that I possibly would have picked over SVR.
Yeah, and that's why the bracket's good fun, because in my opinion, if this was FIFA versus SSX, I probably would have eliminated SSX and picked FIFA. But I'm in a much tougher spot now than I would have been with FIFA.
Silence is always good in a podcast.
I'm mulling it over. I'll put a little, so there'll be some sound playing over the top of me here. Right. It is really difficult, and I'm thinking to myself now, if they reskinned my favourite SSX game and reskin SmackDown vs Raw 2007, and I only had £50 to my name, which one would I buy? It would be SmackDown vs Raw.
You stick it in black and hope for the best.
Yeah, that would be true. I would probably buy SmackDown vs Raw before I would buy SSX Tricky. So this is a lot harder than last week, but I am going to tip SmackDown vs Raw into the playoff round, which is a huge win.
You know what's really interesting to see, genuinely, if they did put an SSX on like Game Pass, even if it wasn't like a massive reskin, I could see a world in which this is 3-0 the other way. Like,
oh, a million percent.
I think we'd sit and play it every night, genuinely. If it was on, that's just, it feels we Ross and Try have seen it in almost every video we've ever done together. It is a perfect Game Pass arcade game.
Do you know what it is? It's a perfect skin for a game that, for those who don't know, we as a friend group all now have real. I say we all have real lives. Most of us have real lives. Craig and I are on gaming every evening until God knows what time. But most of the guys have got wives and kids and other responsibilities, etc. So we do our best on a Sunday evening to have a thing called Bud Night, where we try and get as many people into the Discord as we can on any given Sunday and just play some fucking shit games. Last week it was Peak, which was funny as fuck. But I think like SS Tricky is probably a perfect example of
100%.
the type of game we could just throw on for a couple of hours as a group and have a great time, and it would take you back to your childhood. Whereas I think if it was just the 3 years one night and we could get an online GM save going, I think we'd have an absolute whale of a time. But
see if SSX was available on Game Pass or Steam and that, I think it would. I mean, I'll make a bold statement. I think it'd win this entire fucking thing. Honestly,
I don't know about that, because I've seen the rest of the brackets and there's probably some game titles you've forgotten about.
Can I ask a question as well? Is there a racing section, or was that just omitted for sports? Or is that a separate section?
So I'll give you a tease, right? Because I gave you the tease earlier. I left things like Champman and LMA and Football Manager. There's a simulation bracket.
Nice. Okay.
So there's things like racing simulation, it's like farming simulator and all that shit.
That's gonna be a fucking diggery around, by the way.
Yeah, there's a simulation section. Do you know what? I will give the people what they want next week. We will do the simulation bracket. I'll give the people what they want. But after that, we're going to have to do another FPS bracket because there's that many of them to do. But yeah, 2 spots taken in our playoff round, and they go to Call of Duty 4 and SmackDown vs Raw as a franchise. They will not face each other. They will go into a random draw. For those who are wondering, will COD 4 face SmackDown vs Raw? They will go into a random draw. You're probably also wondering how. You're probably also wondering how come there's a playoff round and there's only one winner of each bracket. That's because each of us will get the chance, including Editor Craig, to bring back 4 wildcards that have been eliminated from the bracket. So they will go into a playoff round before we get our eventual last 16. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who brings what back. I already have a feeling that Editor Craig has one locked and loaded. But yeah, what I'm going to do to keep it interesting so that not everybody takes their wildcard picks every week, every 4th week of the bracket, each one of us will bring one of our wildcards back from the 4 weeks previous. That way we don't just load in on the last 4 weeks and bring back the majority of the previous brackets. So every 4 weeks we'll make a wildcard pick. So we're 2 in. So in 2 weeks time we'll bring back one of our wildcard picks. And we will bring them to you. So closing out prelim 2 of the bracket, it is good night and thank you from me.
See you
all next time.